Today's talk is titled Indigenous Land Acknowledgement. What's next? To be delivered by Rebecca Hendricks. Rebecca and Ted have lived in Cambria for 10 years. She grew up in rural Minnesota, attending high school near the Upper Sioux Agency, where the Sioux Uprising occurred in 1862. She is proud of Granite Falls, who recently sold municipal land to the Dakota tribe to build and live in earth lodges. The mayor went to the Minnesota State Legislature to create zoning changes or variances for these buildings, and the future looks promising for the Dakota Land Project for tribal members to live in lodgings as their ancestors did. Rebecca?
Good morning. Our Sunday service has included an Indigenous land acknowledgement for more than 3 years. In March 2022, I gave a presentation introducing how these are written and used in any organization. What we have yet to do here, if we are interested, is to define the commitments and actions that typically come after incorporating the acknowledgement. Our objective this morning is to review the basics of acknowledgements and discuss additional activities and/or actions that might deepen our understanding and commitment to Indigenous peoples upon whose stolen land we now reside. It will then be in your hands to decide if UUCC should develop and carry out any next steps. So, review. The definition of an Indigenous land acknowledgement, also referred to as an ILA, it is a formal statement that recognizes the unique and enduring relationship that exists between Indigenous peoples and their traditional territories. So why did we develop this ILA at UUCC? I know the worship committee created it because it is in keeping with UU principles, which we hold so dear. Today's question is, what's our end goal? Is what we are doing enough for our congregation and the associated tribes? If the answer is yes, we've completed our task. If not, there are additional questions we could be asking ourselves. For example, are we hoping to inspire others to take action to support Indigenous communities? How are we leaving Indigenous people in a stronger, more empowered place because of this land acknowledgement? As many of you know, I worked in corporate America for the last 40 years. I was part of countless task forces, committees, initiatives, and projects during that time, often developing statements of mission, vision, values, objectives, goals, and so on. Some of these came to life in the workplace: successful product launches, completed mergers or acquisitions, workplace improvements, and so on. Other efforts became what I liked to call posters on the wall. They were results that really didn't make a difference or solve a problem, but were done to satisfy an executive ego. Yes, that happens. Or because competitors were doing something similar, or it smacked of political correctness. It was more for show and didn't really have an impact in the organization. I believe we are very sincere about what is behind the words of our acknowledgement, and all resources recognize that land acknowledgement is a good starting point. The question before us this morning is whether we should have a tangible action plan and look at next steps. I know we are not a community with land to seed, a college who can offer free tuition, or a foundation to create an endowment. But we need to think about what we can do. So I have created a handout of ideas as a starting point. You will notice that the handout is a focus more on the Salinan people. The Salinan, and we're not going to get into a deep discussion on this, but I did want to touch upon it briefly for a couple of reasons. And first of all, oh, Andy, we are going to go to the maps now. It's there. Thank you. Okay, so I went to the tribal sites because I didn't want to go to the library or call somebody at a museum. I went right to the source. So when you go to the Santa Ynez Reservation and the Northern Chumash Reservation's official sites, this is a map that they have. I don't expect you to be able to understand all the Indian names up there, but suffice it to say you can see the Channel Islands, and generally it goes up in San Luis Obispo County to Morro Bay. And not that there isn't tribe migration, we know that there's always overlap, but generally this is what the Chumash officially see as their land, whether that was originally officially, and I was looking about 120 some years ago when they officially became more of a federally recognized Chumash nation. Then when we look at the Salinan Nation, and this is from their website also, you can see, of course, it goes way up to Greenfield because it's almost to Salinas, and then brings it down, and you will see that after we get to Morro Bay, that's where tribes overlap and come in from the east and out to the coast. But the Salinan land truly does cover the general land in which we inhabit. What I found was very comforting was we know that sometimes the conquerors and those conquered have very different histories or maps or remembrances. So when I also went to mission documentation at San Miguel, as well as documentation from the Portuguese who landed along the central coast, along Salinan land quite a while ago, they also agreed with these maps. So it was kind of nice to see some agreement in the resources that I went to. So without getting into this, that's not our objective for today. I do want you to notice that the handout is focused more on Salinan than Chumash, but also for a second very important reason that no matter what your opinion on maps, I'm guessing you'd agree with me. And that is the Chumash were, and rightfully so, they have been recognized, federally recognized by the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, as, and this is their official charter, and this is their official area, whether they are able to reside in it now or not. And they also get funding from the federal government, and they have wonderful sources of income like their casino and so on. So they have more resources than those that maybe didn't submit an application, or treaties were broken, or they were turned down by the BIA in terms of becoming a federally recognized nation of First Peoples. And that is the case with the Salinans. And so they do not have any land, they do not have any funding, they do not have any federal recognition. And so for both of these reasons, although I would love to see if there are Chumash resources or speakers or things like that, but I choose to focus on the Salinan part of what our land rests on. So you could always argue about that with me later, but I just wanted to bring us up to date on where I'm thinking with that compared to 3 or 4 years ago. All right. So you are going to form a group of 2 to 5 people. Like you could always go over and hang out with Mary and, whatever, or turn around and talk to Maria. But we're going, Ted in a minute is going to have a handout. And you won't be able to read it up here. So that's why I typed it out and copied it off. But for people on Zoom, it will appear on your screen and you can talk with each other about it. So you will be a group to yourselves. And everyone else, like I say, 2, 3, 4, I'm not picky. What you will do is, I already said that. Great. We'll take at least 10 minutes, and that's why I brought my phone up to make sure I don't run over time. You'll read briefly through the handout, which is divided into individual actions and group actions, or those that our community might think about. This handout will also be included in an upcoming newsletter. Discuss, first of all, if you think UCC should be creating next steps in addition to our Indigenous land acknowledgement. If it gets too noisy in your area, go stand over there, pop outside, come up and sit by Mary and Jan. But we're not too crowded today. You can sit in the entryway with Randy, but make your little groups of 2, 3, 4, maybe 2, 3, 4, comfortable for that 10 minutes. First of all, you're going to read through the individual actions and maybe just check off 2 or 3 that you go, in the next year, these are things I could do to either educate myself or others or have an impact on this. And then at the bottom are the group actions. And that's where I want each group to maybe choose 2 or 3 that they would like our community to explore and at least come back and say, here are some things we might think about. What do you guys think? And at the bottom on the handout, it'll say other. You might come up with something fabulous that none of us have thought of. All right? Does this make sense so far? As I tell my training classes, concerns, complaints, comments, compliments. Okay. Okay, so what I would love, if come on back. There's never enough time for group work, never. All right. I want to leave you a little frustrated, not too frustrated, so you'll continue to be motivated to think about this topic. So again, everyone who just put their own actions on, you can take that sheet home. If someone noted things about the group actions, I would like that copy back, but right here are extra blank handouts if you want to take one home, since you're giving a copy to me. What I would love is if any group is interested in sharing a couple group ideas that they had or any comments that they have in general.
Is this on still? This microphone does not like me. I know. Okay. Our group decided that we would like to, number 1, visit the Salinan tribes. Bill, can I have the mic for a minute? Visit the Salinan tribes website first. That's the first thing we need to do. And then 2 would be, through that website, contact the Salinan Tribal Council and ask how the UUCC could support their efforts and how also we could find a speaker through them. Because we've been trying as a worship committee, we've been trying forever to get speakers. And we did have, what was his name? Alan Salazar. Yes, he was Shumash, right? Yeah. So we would love to do that. But we came up with some other ideas. Mary had a great idea. Do a group read. We need to find a book that we can all share and do like you all do in the religious education thing. Have a significant discussion for that. And the second thing was honor the land we walk on every day. So every day just make a conscious effort to say, this land is your land, this land is my land. It's all of our land. We wanted to follow Cal Poly's Native American Indigenous Cultural Center on Instagram, but we don't like Instagram. So, yeah, so we don't know what to do. We don't know what to do about that. And as part of the scholarship committee for the past 10 years, I think it's a great idea to incorporate. I don't know that we have any students here at Coast Union, but we could certainly find one through the tribal councils, I'm sure, and incorporate that into our, right, Maria? Into our scholarship program. And I think I'll turn the mic over to somebody else.
Did I hear Judy was maybe going to be a spokesperson? Aren't you lucky I know your name?
Well, we were pretty much in agreement with things Jan said, but hold it up, down. Okay, down. All right. We're pretty much in agreement with what Jan said. We did back up to the individual actions, and maybe we shouldn't have, but we were very concerned about this Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons Day. I've never heard of it. Has anybody else? Oh, okay. You know, we'd like to know more about that. You know, we know what Canada's going through with their, you know, missing children, and then the missing women, the missing Indigenous women, but here, never heard of it. So let's find out. Plus, we also, each an individual need to educate ourselves. And I like the idea about picking a book. I don't know, was the Blue Dolphins, was that, you remember that one? Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry, okay. Well, like I say, basically, as far as you know, we want to make a group, and maybe, excuse me, after church on a Sunday, we all get together and go to San Miguel. Okay. And I'm on the worship committee, and so and Dawn's on the worship committee along with Jan. And Randy, do you hear this? And obviously, whatever we do, we've got to go to the tribal council. We don't want to come in as, here we are, the conquerors, the white conquerors that have come to save you guys. So, and I think that pretty well covers it.
Can I switch this with you and keep your group ideas? Thank you. Any other groups that had different things that haven't been mentioned? All right. Oh, Art.
Hi, Kelly. Can you hear me? All right. Kelly and I were a little bit more pragmatic, and at least one of the things I expressed, and I hope Kelly joined me, was that we don't want to do something that's postering. We want to find out what their needs are to do. And we both endorsed the idea of taking a trip up to the Rios Caledonian Adobe in San Miguel. I think that'd be a great thing, and I think it'd be a great thing to do as a group also. And one of the things that I guess we pointed out was that the Chumash have a lot of resources, a lot of money, but the Solonians do not. Thank you.
Rebecca, I think our online folks have something to say.
Wonderful. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we agreed with everything everyone said, as well as take a trip to the Chumash Casino. And okay, and one other thing was to this holiday season purchase native gifts if we can figure out where to purchase them from.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will tell you that until COVID, that's a good point in terms of not only purchasing authentic Native American goods, but not purchasing, star dancers or whatever they're called, dream weavers in airports where they're made in China. So if you are going to go, like we have 1,000 villages in Minneapolis and it are fair trade places that you can truly buy authentic things that support the tribes and the artists. And I used to live in Arizona, and the Papago would bring in all their beautiful baskets and sell them for far too little, but I have several beautiful things that I know full well because there's a piece of masking tape on the back with the name of the woman or the man that made that basket. So, and then I want to build on Judy for just a minute. I'm very conscious of time. I just want to build on Judy to say that my sister, who is the one church in Minnesota who gives to a Dakota school. That's how they've chosen partially to act out their ILA, is they found Sioux, Dakota, because they live on Dakota Sioux land. Pretty much most of Minnesota does. And that's where they chose to. They actually talked about giving the church and the property to the Dakota. And they have this small city block by the University of Minnesota, kind of a church that needs massive work, 120, 130 years old, and they finally looked and went, oh, for God's sakes, who would want this 140-year-old church with a broken steeple and bad heating? So they did decide they had to do something better, but I thought it was very courageous of them to spend a meeting talking about, could we give our land and building away, and would that somehow be meaningful in terms of supporting the Dakota Sioux in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area? So no idea is too crazy to consider, and they really decided it was not going to be very much of a gift, but an interesting discussion nonetheless. All right, so if the rest of you just make sure you get my your group sheet with your ideas on it, if it's anything different, and I will wrap this up. Good Good job. I miss the training room. I really do. I don't miss the traveling. I don't miss the preparation, but I sure love having people do cool stuff in groups. You will hear back from us. This is not in a vacuum. And we will talk about next steps to our ILA here at UUCC as that's appropriate. I really appreciate your listening ears and your positive energy this morning. Thank you very much.